youngsters. Great chance here. That does it. Steve McGavin. And for the first time, Colchester United have won a major final.
Still Garcia, finally the company arrives and it's in! It's a freak-out goal from Ricardo Carvalho. Richard Garcia wants the credit and the shock is on at the bridge.
And it's promotion for Colchester United. They've made it into the Championship for the first time in 69 years.
Porter, being held, there is Porter, and that's Maka!
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Beyond the Barside Meets, the podcast where we speak to some of the legends and cult heroes from Colchester United's past and present. This week, Si and I were joined by the U's former goalkeeper coach Yilmaz Aksoy, who was our goalkeeper coach up until very recently, where he ended up leaving to pursue a role at the Football Association. We were very, very pleased to chat to Yilmaz, all things goalkeeping and Colchester United. We spoke about the goalkeeper union. We spoke about the 21 clean sheets earned under his tenure, and we spoke about what it's like working under different managers. He worked under 3 different managers all in all during his 2.5 years spell. But without further ado, please welcome Yilmaz Aksoy. Welcome to Beyond the Barside Meets, where we are joined by a very special guest, Yilmaz Aksoy. Thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, congratulations on the new job. You're on camp now, hence the attire. Do you want to just talk us through a little bit about what you're up to?
Yeah. So, firstly, like you said, I am on camp, so I'm not sleeping in the kit and living and breathing it in that way. But yeah, listen, really fortunate. I kind of joined the Football Association as goalkeeping coach development manager. So my, I guess, job role in a nutshell is to try and help improve goalkeeping coaching across the country. So some of that falls into the formal qualifications. So overseeing sort of the goalkeeping coaching qualifications from A license down to sort of entry level national goalkeeping course. And then obviously not moving away from football and being able to still be on the grass with it rather than just behind sort of a computer. We're just on camp at the moment with the men's under 15s team. So we've just had 2 days sort of regional events to try and use some sort of the opportunity to scout some new players for obviously the age groups in the younger ages. So yeah, a busy 2 days, and we've got another busy 2 days to go. So but all good. Looking forward to speaking with you guys. So thanks again for having me.
No, thank you very much for coming on. I think it speaks volumes about a person that when they move on from a club, traditionally, you know, fans tend to be a little bit put out by it. But the fact that you've moved to the Football Association and Colchester fans as a collective have pretty much gone brilliant, great, sort of speaks volumes about the way things are going with Colchester at the moment and the impact you had yourself on the side and on the fans and the results on the pitch. I mean, just to summarise, I mean, how did you enjoy your time at Colchester?
Yeah, I mean, have you got enough time tonight to talk about all of the stuff we've enjoyed? Because I think if I look at my journey, it's been a roller coaster, which I think many fans can appreciate and understand, because I think supporting Colchester is always got its highs and its lows. But when I look at when I joined, the challenges the club was facing from a performance perspective, when I look at what probably the last, if you take a snapshot of probably the last 6 to 12 months has brought, you know, how close we got to just missing out on the playoffs last year. So when you're looking at the change in performance, the consistency in the team, and I know we'll speak about it, I'm sure, when we talk about, you know, 21 clean sheets in a season, the success that the goalkeeping department managed to bring and kind of Matt at the peer front of that. So yeah, it was joyful, and it had loads of challenges challenges that came along the way. But from a selfish perspective as a coach, I think they're the good things that you enjoy, because you never get too high, you never get too low. And I think when you do look at it, when I look at my 2.5 years, it's been such a great journey to meet so many people, see such passionate fans, being able to kind of then as a coach be able to kind of transfer that to the players, for them to understand what it means to play for Colchester, and kind of help the improvement of the performance in that. Because listen, one thing that's brilliant about Colchester is it's a community club, and everyone buys into it, everyone chips away, and we understand that we're not blessed with the resources that maybe some of the others in the division, let alone higher divisions, have. But what we do definitely have is the togetherness through the thick and the good times, to really enjoy it and embrace it. And that's the way that I would describe my 2.5 years. Enjoyable, a roller coaster, and one to look back on with plenty of fond memories.
Definitely. I mean, that roller coaster element definitely describes Colchester United quite aptly from a fan's perspective, and I'm sure as a staff perspective as well. Obviously, the beginning period of you joining Colchester United would have been under Ben Garner, who
Yeah.
you'd have worked with previously at Charlton.
Yeah.
Was that a big reason in you coming across, the fact you had that pre-existing relationship there?
Yeah, to be honest, the opportunity came up, and I can't thank Ben enough for it. We obviously, when Ben was at Charlton as a manager, I was in the academy as head of academy goalkeeping. So we'd worked indirectly, in the sense that obviously we had a first team goalkeeping coach at the time, but obviously, as footballers, you're in the same building, you're always crossing paths, you're always having conversation lines, or there's people that, you're always speaking in the small football world in the training ground. So obviously with Graham Stack moving on at the time, Ben sent me a message and just said, look, obviously there's a change happening in my coaching team, would you be interested? And I was probably at that point where I'd been at Charlton for 3 years, and I was kind of getting that itchy feet of, well, what's the next exciting opportunity that I can get my teeth into? And it probably came at the right time, looking back now, in kind of stepping into first team football. There was always the apprehension of, right, first team football comes with its insecurities as a coach. Working with young developing goalkeepers, you get a bit more time in your job, whereas the performance side of things, if the team isn't performing as well, as we've seen, coaching staff can quickly change. So there was an element of risk in that. But I was an age and stage in my career that was a risk I was willing to take. And when you then look at it, when the opportunity came, you come straight into it. I remember starting on a Tuesday, just before our opening game, and I think we ended up having, I can't remember who we played in the league, but we ended up going Saturday, Tuesday, Cardiff away in the Carabao Cup, and then back in the league. And it was a bit like, whoa, okay, first team football, welcome to it. And I know you guys know it more than me, with the miles that obviously I know Si definitely puts in every game, home and away, that he never misses. So yeah, that's how the opportunity came about. I was fortunate to work with Ben for a short period of time at Charlton, when we'd sort of crossed paths indirectly, and very fortunate to him to give me the opportunity to work at Colchester.
Yeah, and obviously you speak about sort of the risk element that's involved, and that sort of apprehension of not having as much stability as coaching staff can change quite abruptly in first team environments, and that sort of did happen at Colchester with Ben unfortunately losing his job, but Danny and Nicky coming in. Was there any sort of concerns when Danny and Nicky came in, or did you guys just sort of get on straight off the
No,
bat?
so to be honest, it's yeah, obviously we had a period in between, so that was the first time experiencing it. I remember it was Harrogate at home, where we obviously ended up not getting the right result, and it was a bit more of like, okay, we could be under some difficult conversations here, and then obviously across that sort of weekend, it all spiraled. Decisions were made, changes were going to be made, and it's the first time I probably really experienced sort of, you in football, you're very close knit. And what I mean by that is you spend so much time talking about players and challenges and what's coming up and what we're facing. And then suddenly at that moment, you face a difficulty of, right, somebody's no longer going to be involved in this role. What does that bring for us? And what direction are we going to go? Am I next, but am I just not in the conversation? And I'll have a conversation in a day or two's time. What does that look like? And then obviously, naturally with time comes a bit more kind of reassurance, because you kind of even know, right, okay, there isn't going to be a change. I've just got to carry on doing my job, and you have the belief in what you're doing. But coming back onto the question that you asked about Danny and Nicky, obviously when that change happened after the Gillingham game, again, there was a sense of uncertainty. And if anything, the uncertainty was probably bigger this time, because when the change had happened with Ben, obviously a lot of the coaching staff and the technical team had remained, with Matty coming in interimly. But under Danny and Nicky, there was probably quite a big shift and change, with a few people sort of kind of, when you look at Scotty Marshall, you look at Dave Huzzy at the time, we had a couple of obviously medical staff and whatnot, that there was a bit like, okay, well, suddenly the office is changing. Who's coming in? What's that going to look like? There's a couple of days in between before that happened. But on the Thursday, Dimitri had kind of said to us, we're going to have a staff meeting at 10. We'll make all of the announcements as and when we need to. And when they said sort of Danny and Nicky have been appointed, this is the direction we're going in, you kind of then have a sense of relief of like, okay, all right, I've got to carry on with my role here. And there's never a real certainty in, in football, the games come so thick and fast. You're like, right, how do I worry about the next one? But Danny and Nicky, if they wanted, I'm sure Robbie would have supported to be able to kind of bring their own coaching team and how that looked. But one thing kind of Danny always said to me from the start is, look, you do your job. And as long as you can do your job to the best of your ability and you buy into what we're trying to do, we'll be supportive. And he was that from day one. What do I need? How can he help me to help the goalkeepers? And vice versa. It was like, well, what more can I do to the team? How can I, in the direction that you want to go, how do I get clarity in what we're doing? And it's evident when you look at how hard they work, how close they bring people together to try and achieve the same common goal, that you fast forward sort of near enough 2 years now, and you see the success in which they've been able to overcome hurdles and challenges and bumps in the road over and over again, to just make sure that, at the end of the day, the team doesn't suffer. And it's no surprise that, the team finds themselves in the position that they're in with the challenges that they're currently facing when you look at the amount of injuries to certain key players that are in the team. But there's such good talent from top to bottom that it just gives other people opportunities, and it gives them the opportunity to shine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously the constraints that the club are under, it's been no secret, and Danny sort of made no excuses for that. He's been quite upfront with the challenges they face and how he aims to sort of combat them on the pitch. Obviously, there was lots of success from a goalkeeping and a defensive perspective during your time as goalkeeper coach. 21 clean sheets, which ultimately led to Matt Macey winning the League Two Golden Glove, working under yourself at Colchester. I mean, how was that for you as a coach?
Yeah, listen, I think as a coach, it's always good to see sort of player accolade and kind of players' performance kind of brought towards the coaching staff with it as well. But I think it's more the collective environment that you build. When you say Matt Macey, 21 clean sheets, but you've also got to know that that was compared with also Owen Goodman, also keeping 21 clean sheets. When you look at the following season, when people would probably look and go, oh, like the roller coaster of the journey that the club had in the first 6 months, and then kind of the second half of the season. Goalkeeping coaching can do that, where people have a mixed feeling, and then 12 months later, the two goalies that you've worked with and spent 12 months working hard with suddenly kind of share an award because both have kept 21 clean sheets and performing well. So I guess I'm going around the houses in the question that you asked, but yeah, I think it gives you real immense pride. It gives you sort of accreditation to the work that you're doing, and sometimes in football, when you know what you're doing is really good and you trust the process, sometimes the rewards are not always there. But to be able to get to the end of last season as such and know that, we just missed out. But when you then reflect on it and go, there was so much good stuff that had happened, from a collective perspective from the team. But also when you then look at it, Matt played 52 games last year, the most he's ever played in his career, in one full season, to keep 21 clean sheets in the league, to get so far in the EFL trophy. They're all individual accolades from a personal perspective for him to be able to be really proud of as a coach, to go, some way over the course of the season, we found a real positive way of working to give him the best opportunity to perform. And he did that, and he still is doing that when you look at the amount of clean sheets he's managed to keep since I've left as well.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks volumes about Matt Macey as a goalkeeper and quite how talented he is. But you also mentioned Owen Goodman, who also was he was at the beginning part of his career, and obviously,
Exactly.
you know, they're at two very different points in their career. Is the approach different with a goalkeeper like Owen compared to Matt?
I think there's considerations that are different. Listen, Matt's 32. I can't remember actually if he's turned 32 yet. But he's in his 30s. Whereas Owen's in his early 20s. You know, still trying to find his way of goalkeeping, in a way that suits him, in a way that he trains, in a way that he plays, and the way that different managers asking him to play to be able to adjust. Whereas obviously Matt's got that experience, having played under a number of managers in a number of different divisions. But one thing we've definitely been fortunate with at Colchester is we've had such a good group of goalkeepers from the day that I joined till the day that I left in December. From the young players, you know, again, I know a lot of you guys always mention it on social media, but the value of Tom Smith. Tom never gets the light shined on him, but the work he does behind the scenes to just make sure that he's ready for every opportunity that comes his way, but the way in which he pushes. And yeah, I think as a group, you know, they've all got their strengths, and it's my job as a goalie coach and every goalie coach that works with their group of goalies is to find the best way that works for the collective group. So, you know, again, when we talk about Tom, Matt has a measured training program, because at 32, and especially with the physicality or physical uniqueness that he's got to train in a certain way that allows him to be ready and fresh in the best shape possible come Saturday 3 o'clock. Whereas for Tom, that looks slightly different. So in the week, he might be able to do certain things that maybe with Mace you've got to be considerate about, and vice versa the other way. So yeah, as a goalkeeping coach, it's just important that you understand your players. It's important you understand them as people, you understand them as goalkeepers, and then you've got to use your kind of skill sets and experience to be able to make sure that everybody gets the attention and love and the support that they need. Because come Saturday, like we've experienced, things can change very quickly, in all sorts of ways of who goes on the pitch and what they need to do.
Yeah,
Sorry, go back to the Tom Smith thing. I've said it a few times. Is to me the lead to Scott Carson, because of what he does behind the scenes. How Pep obviously thought Scott Carson did at City. He seems to be doing very similar. How important is it to have a good number two who's obviously not only a good goalkeeper but also good behind the scenes?
Yeah, so listen, I think it's key. I think in every goalkeeping environment, usually the number one looks after themselves. And what I mean by that is, as long as people are playing, they're happy. And I always find that if you can get the balance right to what the group needs and what the goalkeeping kind of collective union needs, that's what makes the best recipe for a goalkeeping department. And I think we had that really sort of nailed on, in what Tom brings, because he understands, he's honest, he's hardworking, and all Tom really requires is honesty and the opportunity. And I think as long as he can see that, which I know, you know, we had that in the work that we did, but I know Danny and Nicky are quite key in that as well, in always being honest where Tom stands, always be honest with what he needs to continue to keep improving on in order to get the opportunities that he needs. But also they recognize that when opportunities can come, how is he given that? And I think he sees that, which, you know, you look at this year when, you know, Accrington away, 25-30 minutes in, Mace has a concussion, and knock to his head, and Tom's up and he's ready, and there's never a hesitation of shall we not, which shows the belief the other way. So yeah, like I say, I think kind of coming back to the question that you asked, Tom, there isn't many like Tom. I think is the best way to put it, and I think the skill sets and uniqueness that he brings in his own quirky way is invaluable. And I think I'm really pleased that people see that, from what he brings on the touchline to what he brings in the changing room to what he brings to the lads away from the pitch. There ain't many like him, but I think if you do want a successful goalkeeping group, the role of the number two, number three is vital and key.
Yeah, I mean, you almost see him sort of having those discussions with the fourth official, or doing a sort of slight warm up to give instructions to Macey at various points in the game. I mean, he's certainly involved without being involved sort of directly, which, as you say, is invaluable to the whole team and not necessarily just Matt Macey. What about sort of the younger goalkeepers? Obviously, Colchester have had, some talented young goalkeepers come through over recent years. Obviously, most recently, you've got Harrison Chamberlain and Ted Collins before that. I mean, what do they do sort of on a day-to-day that contributes to Matt and getting that sort of workout really and that
Yeah,
challenge?
I think the best way to describe it is, as a football club, we're blessed because Robbie is very supportive of young players. He's invested um, throughout his whole time at the football club in giving young players opportunities, and from a goalkeeping perspective, that's not changed. We've been fortunate, like you say, with Ted Collins over the last couple of years, and Ted got to an age where it was right for him to be able to move on and find his own way in being a club number one. And we've been fortunate enough this year, actually. So Ted's come in to help us a couple of days a week to train, because obviously he's now playing in part-time football at Folkestone. Which has been really helpful for us, but also for him, because he's come from the pathway from as young as under 10 all the way through to the 21s and the first team, albeit he never really got to make a first team debut. He was an important part of the goalkeeping program. So we've been fortunate enough to, like I say, bring him in as a training goalie, but also as an academy goalie coach, because I think he's got a lot to be able to give to the next generation of goalkeepers through his experience. And then you mentioned Harrison Chamberlain. So Harrison's, since I've been in a young, high talented goalkeeper, we brought him into the first team sort of change room this year, but last year had a really successful year in first half playing for the 21s and then obviously going out on loan to Cray Valley. And somebody at the age of 19 to show his level of maturity, his level of confidence, and obviously the growth that he's shown over sort of the year as a goalkeeper. This year's probably been a bit more stop-start for him. He's had a couple of niggles and knocks that have he's had to manage, and opportunities that have come and gone that just weren't right for him or for us as a football club to be able to allow him to have his own opportunity in progressing in senior football. But what we are seeing, like he's done now, for the busy period at Christmas, gone back to Cray Valley, he's now getting himself back senior football. He's been training with the first team for most of the year this year, which has really allowed him to kick on in the consistency in the levels. And the question that you asked about how does that help Mace prepare for Saturdays, it gives us an extra goalkeeper in the level that Harrison learns off Matt, of what the details and the skills and the consistency levels are needed in order to be able to achieve what he does. Similar with Tom. But what also that allows is when Mace, has got some aches and pains, and when you are throwing yourself around at the age of 32, in and around the goal, it's a lot easier to do that at 19 than 32 and do that for a course of 50 plus games a season. So Harrison fits those positions where we can manage Mace's kind of physical load to allow Harrison the opportunity of working with the first team players and developing his skill set. So like I said, I think from all of the clubs I've worked at, I've really enjoyed working with the three of them. I think they're top individuals, top professionals, really hardworking, humble. But one of the biggest traits that I think all three have got is they're really honest. They understand each other. They want to help each other. But the lads understand the current pecking order, in who plays and who supports and whose roles are what. And that will change over time because naturally people progress. People kind of hit certain stumbling blocks which cause challenges, but between them they have such a healthy working relationship and balance that they push each other every day. But as soon as the saying, the ref blows the whistle and the game stops, they're the best of buddies and kind of sharing their experiences to help each other.
Yeah, definitely. That sort of goalkeepers union that people talk about is definitely on display at Colchester United.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
that's always quite evident. But you mentioned Harrison going on loan to Cray Valley and having that experience in senior football. You see a lot of young goalkeepers sort of make those loan moves to sort of step 3, step 4 sides to get that experience in senior football. How important is that for a goalkeeper to face sort of
Oh,
men
it,
rather than play 21s?
yeah, for me it's massive, and I can only take the example of Harrison again, like last year. So he played 17 games at Cray Valley, seeing his confidence grow. So when Harrison joined them in January, there was an element of like, how do we really stretch his learning? How do we put him into uncomfortable situations to really help him continue to keep growing as a goalkeeper? And there was always reservations, can we send him higher? Can we send him in more challenging situations? And it's a bit like, well, you never know what's gonna happen and throw at him. And you look at his first 3 games, I think I remember watching him at Bowers and Pitsea on a really cold sort of Saturday afternoon. I think whether we didn't have a fixture, or our fixture got cancelled because of the weather, like their game was on still on the Astro. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go and watch Harrison. And first pass that comes back to him. In sort of 3 minutes into the game, centre half bobbles it on the Astro. He's got the sun beaming in his eyes, and you're thinking, what's he going to do? Because he's got 300 people behind the goal already, like giving it the old all, and he's never really experienced that before. You fast forward 6 months later, Cray Valley get into the playoffs. They're playing Dartford away. He's playing in front of 2,500-3,000 people. They go 2-0 up. And unfortunately for Harrison, they end up scoring in the 93rd minute and win the game 3-2. 2-2 to draw the game 2-2 to go into extra time, and then they score 3-2, 4-2. Cray Valley get one back. The game suddenly gets heated, and you look at that whole experience 17 games later, like that game in itself gives him so much learning that I don't think, unfortunately, at 21's football you can replicate. Whereas for him to be able to go from suddenly, oh my God, we're going to the playoff final because we're 2-0 up and we're 60 minutes and we're dominating. And then suddenly in 30 minutes, the momentum in the game change, where he's having to now be called upon to make big saves, manage the game, find the moment where, he's able to see the game out. And they're the skill sets that you want to give a young goalkeeper, because the reality of it is when he steps into the league, it only gets harder when you've got 5,000 people every Saturday and every Tuesday night watching you and having to expect the level of consistency. But if you've never really experienced those emotions, to suddenly switch it on, it's hard. So it's our job as coaches to be able to find those right experiences that help him grow. And I know that he's on that journey with those experiences, getting better and better as each time they happen.
Definitely. And I think it's even evident with some of the goalkeepers that we had on loan. Obviously, Owen Goodman being that example, that when he joined the club, I think we sort of got to the end of September and he said that to play the amount of games that he would have played playing 23s and 21s at Palace would have nearly been into the new year. It would have taken so much longer for him to get that experience. And you sort of see now that he's just gone on loan to Barnsley, he's sort of gradually going up the pyramid, getting that experience. It's obviously something that's really valuable for goalkeepers. But going back to Colchester, obviously that period of clean sheets was really valuable in terms of what you were able to do with the goalkeepers. But obviously there's a collaboration there with the back four and the defensive unit. How important was that collaboration with the wider coaching staff in creating consistency and trust within the defensive unit?
I think it's massive, and that's probably partly the biggest part of the success that the team had in the second half of the season last year. Because when you look at, the back line was settled. So, you had Ellis, you had Flan, you had Kells, you had Manny as a back four that probably, again, without knowing the numbers, I'm going to say there was a big percentage of games where that back four was settled, and that allowed Mace to have strong relationships. So when balls were played into the box, players knew when and where which players were going to be able to clear and whose responsibility is what. And I think the best teams have consistency in that, but the best teams also have the togetherness that when somebody can't perform, and what I mean by that is, we saw that with, use Kells as an example, when Kells had the little one and Tux was able to step in at Cheltenham away, it was like a seamless transition, and that's what I think, strong football teams and good coaching teams that are able to bring that out of the whole entire squad to keep everybody aligned with the way in which we want to play. You make the grey areas as small as possible so people know their roles and responsibilities. just gives the players the best opportunity that when they cross that white line, you've given them the tools to be as successful as you can. And I think again, credit to Danny and Nicky. When you look at the principles in which they've laid down into the squad, they've got a good buy-in from all of the players that are in that. Everyone knows their job when they're on the pitch, and if you're not on the pitch, you know the jobs that when you get on the pitch, that's what you've got to do, and you've got to do it really well in order for the team to function. And I think that's been a success when you look at the time in which they've been in charge.
Yeah, definitely. It's something we talk about a lot, isn't it, Si? That we stick to our principles, and although the start of the season was a little bit shaky and a little bit more inconsistent than we'd have liked, we stuck to our guns, and it sort of came into fruition a little bit later into the season. So that's always positive that we've got an identity and a way of moving forward. But sort of back to you and your time at Colchester United, is there a particular moment or achievement that sort of always sticks out as a highlight during your time at the club?
Oh, it's a great question. I'm hoping I'm not gonna miss a good moment out. Oh, you put me on the spot now. Let's come back to that one. I'm gonna have a bit of a thought think because I don't really want to give a rubbish answer, but I also don't want to give a fluffy answer. So let me have a think about it. But yeah, I'll definitely answer that before we finish this.
Of course, yeah, no problem at all. Back to sort of goalkeeping generally. Obviously, it's a position that's sort of evolved quite a bit over the years. Particularly you look at sort of Manchester City that they look to have their goalkeepers do a bit more of their feet than
Yeah,
perhaps
yeah.
traditionally would have been done sort of 5-10 years ago. Is that something in sort of your role now, developing younger keepers? Is there more of an emphasis on goalkeepers playing out from the back, using their feet a lot more, or are you sort of more in line with the sort of core principles of handling
Yeah,
and stuff
so
like that?
it's interesting that you use Man City as a really good example, and I think that probably sums up where the game is. So probably about 10 years ago when Pep came to City, there was a real shift in the demand in which the future game would look like, which you then go and get a goalkeeper like Edison. Man City dominate most of the games with the ball. They walk past teams with 70-80% plus possession, and the goalkeeper touches the ball 5 times and has nothing else to worry about. You fast forward 10 years time, suddenly there's a change in playing principles, and he changes Edison and brings in Donnarumma because Man City are conceding a few more chances because other people have developed the skill set. So I guess the question that you asked, the game's always evolving. So we've
Mhm.
always got to make sure that we're kind of trying to predict the right future in what it could look like and give everybody a rounded opportunity and skills. And what I kind of do in the role now is just try and shine different lights on the goalkeepers that are in our programs. So when you look at the academy football across the country, there's goalkeepers of different shapes and sizes. Our 15s camps that we've had over the weekend, for example, we've had a look at 22, 23 goalkeepers, and some of them are near enough, if not bigger than me, at the age of 14, 15, and some have got some growing to still do. Fitting into extra small men's t-shirts, whereas some of the others are fitting into extra large. So I think they come in different shapes and sizes. The demands of the games are different. When you're playing at the top level, I think certain individual attributes or goalkeepers could really shine. But I think when you take League Two, for example, the demands of the game are completely different to what it is in elite football, and the goalkeepers in League Two have to have a different skill set, and that's just adjusted in the way that maybe balls might be played into the box, being a bit more direct in certain teams' approach, or I know we're fortunate this year with the pitch, but last year the playing out wasn't really the option that maybe it was for maybe other teams on certain other pitches. So you then start to profile what, when and where is the right skill to be able to use, and it's your job as a goalie coach to try and give the goalkeepers those opportunities to recognize that. So yeah, the game's evolving. We're always trying to stay ahead of it. I don't think there's a prescriptive sort of balance of we look more in possession, we look more out of possession. We just have to find goalkeepers that are really good at what they do and fit into the way in which the team want to play.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, it was something that Danny mentioned as well when we spoke to him, that you sort of need a certain set principles and attributes to be successful in different leagues and different levels of the pyramid. But in League Two, are there any goalkeepers that sort of stick out to you as ones that, God, I'd really like to work with them?
Yeah, so really good question. There definitely is a few, and I'm just conscious of when you mention names, you probably get a text message back going, "Cheers, mate. Thanks for not mentioning me." But the ones that have always stood out for me, so like I'll use, for example, James Belshaw. For me, he's an excellent goalkeeper in a way in which, he's got personality, he's got character. He can distribute a ball consistently well, whether you want to play, whether you want to be a bit more direct. From my own experiences of playing against him, home and away with Colchester, I remember the outstanding save when Noah Chilvers comes in away last year, and it might have been the year before. It's all merging into one year. The year before, where we end up having chance after chance after chance, and then at the home game we end up having 33 shots. I think he makes 4 or 5 blinding saves. We hit 12 on target. They go up the other end and they score, and it's a 1-0. And you're thinking, oh bloody hell, like what's happened here? And it's no surprise, he's got his move to Notts County this window, an opportunity that's great for him, because even though Harrogate haven't been performing as well as probably what the club want to be, other clubs have recognised the skill sets that he brings in order to make the saves at big key moments that might help Notts County be in the position that they want to be come the end of the season. So he's one that always has stood out for me. One, because I think he's got a number of unique skill sets that, he defends the goal really well, and he can make a lot of good passes when he's got time and space and fit into different teams' identities. But he's probably played really well with the 5 or 6 fixtures that I've always played, and we always joke about it when we see each other before the game. Like, well, come on, last time you had a good one. This is your time to have a stinker. And he comes to me after and goes, "Sorry, mate. Do you remember that big save I pulled off just to keep it at a draw or keep the level down?" And we laugh about it. But he's one that jumps at me. Again, I really enjoyed working with Mace. I think he's in the top 2 in the division. Because I think he's outstanding in his character, his personality, his presence. He comes for crosses, he can distribute, and his cool, calm nature, I think, is what's been the difference in the last 2 years. He never gets too high with the highs, he never gets low with the lows, and I think his maturity, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me talking about it, but Cheltenham away last year, he has a difficult game, and he comes straight out and he goes, "No, I need to own this. It's down to me." And then we go to Bromley on the Saturday, and we do nothing different, because the only thing he said to me is, "I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's just crack on, business as normal." And you always have it as a coach in the back of your mind of, does he really mean that, or is he just saying that because he's trying to put a front and a face on? And we have a normal week. Comes in on a Thursday, no problem. I want to get back on the grass. I want to feel the ball. And we go Bromley away, and you're thinking, "Oh, this can be tough. This." We win 1-0. First few minutes, he settles in with a really good strike, clean hands, comes for a big long throw, comes for a cross, settles into the game. And then at the end of it, you kind of go, "Do you know what? Yeah, he was right. He just wanted to do everything normal." And he comes in and goes, like, to the group, actually, the first session back, and he goes, "I just want to thank everybody here, because it's you guys that have made me be able to bounce back as properly as I can." Again, and that shows just the level of maturity and professionalism that he's got, that he never gets too high with the highs and he never gets low with the lows, and that's what gives him the success that he's had, and hopefully much more to come.
Yeah, and I think definitely that sort of mental toughness, resilience is something that's probably key as a goalkeeper, because you make a mistake as a goalkeeper, it's quite evident for all to see compared to other positions out on the pitch. I mean, do you have to have that sort of thick skin as a goalkeeper?
Yeah, listen, you have to. I think resilience is one of the biggest skill sets, right? Because everyone's got a bit of a safety net behind them, mind the pun, because there's always someone behind them that might be able to sweep up, might put a last ditch tackle in, whatever. A goalkeeper's decision, the likelihood chances, if it's wrong, the significant chance of it returning in a goal is massive. So yeah, like I say, it's a hard skill to teach. And I think the reality of it is the only way you can learn it is by being in those situations and understanding how it feels, and experiencing it. Coming back to the question around Harrison Chamberlain, that's why loans are great for young players, because Not saying it doesn't matter in the lower divisions, but if their skill sets allows them to be able to experience those, when they're experiencing it, they're able to apply it. And the same concept when you use for Owen, that first season on loan at us, all of the highs and lows that he's learned has given him the success to be able to experience what he's experienced in 2 years on. If he doesn't have that first opportunity, does he get the opportunities that he's got now? I'm not sure. And I think at some point that's the balance and challenge in coaching. It's when our young players ready to kind of get that experience that helps them on their journey. And as a football club, I'm saying it to you guys, but Colchester's always done that, where they've given young players a platform when you're kind of going, is he ready? Is he not? 25 games later, he's flying and there's no holding him back. And the next division comes. And that's the beauty of the football club, because I think they do that across all of the positions. And if you're good enough, you're young enough, you're old enough, and that's the motto. Age doesn't really matter as long as you're capable to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you reckon, obviously, it's about mental resilience, etc.? What's probably the one skill set maybe a goalkeeper needs that is not that obvious to fans? Because it's probably one position we don't really understand as much as anything else we've all played out on pitch. So what do you reckon is that one skill
Yeah.
that they've got that we don't really realise is important?
I think the best ones that I've worked with, and you see the uniqueness of their mental skill set, is I'd say that resilience of just not getting too high with the highs and not too low with the lows. And I think that's hard in younger players. But I think psychological skills look different in everyone. And what I mean by that is I might not be really resilient and show that outwardly, but I might have a real keen winning mentality. So whenever there's a game, or whenever there's a practice, or whenever there's something I've got to think outside the box, I've got the skill sets to be able to do that. And I might then apply that in a goalkeeping context, and be able to find solutions to certain problems that mean I don't have to deal with the setbacks, but I think outside the box, and I've got that. So I think it's really hard, but like I say, I think the best ones that I've worked with, or I've seen play, they always have an edge. And I think that's the part that excites you most about it. There's always the saying, you got to be crazy to be in goal. I actually, the more with goalies I work with, I do think to myself, well, I can understand by what they mean crazy, because they're different, they're on edge, they keep people on the edge of their seat, but in a good way that you do. Whereas maybe in certain other positions, different attributes. I think based on where you are, centre forwards, for example, I'd like to think I'd give them the selfish character, when you're labeling it. But the reason they're selfish is because they're in front of goal and they score goals. If you're not selfish and you pass the ball every time, then you're not a goal scorer, are you? And there's always those traits. So yeah, like I say, I think it's resilience, because I think the top goalies are always able to be level-headed, and that leads into other attributes like consistency and whatnot that I think always stem from that.
Yeah, so I mean, you speak about obviously the selfish nature of being a striker. Obviously, looking at strikers and preparing for different strikers is a huge part of what you do in preparing goalkeepers for the game on a Saturday or Tuesday. Looking at sort of the League Two landscape as it is at the moment, there's different sort of types of centre forward. You look at players like Michael Cheek that are sort of a bit more of a physical presence and that sort of natural goal scorer, compared to someone like Aaron Collins, who's probably a bit more technical and lighter on his feet. I mean, from your perspective, what's the sort of toughest striker to prepare a goalkeeper for?
Probably every striker in League Two, because they're just it's I think you can study all of Haaland's goals and you start to see trends. You can study loads of goals at top elite level, like you look at Havertz and all of these like top level players, and there's always a common trend. I think the beauty of League Two is you try and bucket players in a similar bracket when you break the game down, but the game throws such a different game at them. And I think the best ones are the ones that are just able to be adaptable. And it's no surprise when you look at Michael Cheek, and we always look at it, right, preparing for Bromley, and this is what we're expecting, this is the game plan, and this is what you need to do. But the reason he scores goals is he can come off script, and there isn't a bit of a script, and he then uses his individual brilliance to be able to do that, in his experience of pulling off certain players or certain moments. I'll stand in a certain position and it's going to drop and my quality then shines. So in reality, I don't think you can ever prepare for it. because you play Michael Cheek one week, the following week you play Dan Carnew at Walsall that's running in behind, and the kind of opportunities that then they create to, you go and play again a Harrogate, and they've got March up front with Duke McKenna on the side, and the combinations are different. So I think the beauty of the game is every Saturday and Tuesday night looks different, but I think what you try and do is you give the goalkeepers a holistic program that covers all of the basic necessities of what might come, and then you give them a bit of a flavour in the week of what you think might happen. Whether that's loads of balls in the box, cutbacks, whether that's shots from inside the box, outside the box, and angles. You can review the opposition till the cows come home, being the saying, but the reality of it is Saturday comes and the game looks different, or they get one opportunity that you think they might have had 4 or 5, and you've prepared, loads of work in a week to do that, and it's not happened. Yeah, you never know, and I guess that's what keeps us on the edge, right? If we knew what the score was going to be on Saturday, we knew exactly how the game was going to go. What's the excitement of being at the game at 3 o'clock, ready to see what's going to happen? So yeah, coming back to your answer, there isn't a black and white way in doing it, but I think it's that balance of keeping a holistic lens on what the goalkeeper needs, and then having some insights into maybe certain things that you can be able to help. Certain players might have tendencies, if they come into these positions, they're going to do this. So when they get into here, anticipate this, and that might give you a better chance to be able to deal with X and Y. But you just got to give the goalkeepers as much training and experience as possible, and let them play their game. That's why they're goalies and we're the goalie coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we'll go back to the question in terms of
I still need to put that
memories
back in my back.
and key moments. And I'm sure whatever you say, someone will have an opinion on you missing something out. But is there anything that sticks out for you?
Yeah, so I definitely think it's the 21 clean sheets. I think that's like, the boys were really good at. So they gave me a signed goalkeeping shirt and got a picture of me, Harrison, Tom, with Mace's award last year in the last game of the season. I think that's like as a big memory. Particular moments when I look back, I think knowing that we were safe in the first season, I think like that was a real positive moment for me to be able to be like, okay, because I've taken this change, this challenge. I've gone into a new role at a new club with potential risks, all of the roller coaster experiences through the season. And then you kind of look and go, right, as a coach, selfishly, but also as a coach for a football club, you don't want to be in a relegation, and you don't want to get relegated, because the first team season that you go in, you then have relegation in your CV. You kind of a bit like, oh, what does this mean for me in my coaching journey? Like players, I want to work at the top and I want to work with the best players, but I look back for my own self's sake, like that year taught me so much, and then you enjoy the highs. 3-0 in my first couple of away games away at Gillingham, where we get the 3-0 win, Brad scores the chip, and you're thinking like, welcome to first team football, this is brilliant. You then have moments where again, Owen Goodman, 1-0 clean sheet, Aki, Owen I think makes 11, 12 fantastic saves, and we come away and we're thinking, have we just nicked 3 points from these guys, because they've literally battered our goal the whole game, to be able to take away. So yeah, I'm hoping I've not missed it, because again, all of the games merge into one. I've had such highs, and I'm guessing you can see from the bench cam as well, because when I do actually miss, I still watch them and go, oh, how I'd be celebrating right now with this. I'm gutted. I actually said it to the boys, like seeing the MK Dons game New Year's Day and the celebrations. I actually text Penny going, oh man, if only I was on the side of the bench. That feeling in the changing room where you just go like, they're the bits that I don't think you can replicate, and I'm sure there's plenty more of those in my 2.5, 3 years at the club that I've probably not recalled. But yeah, they're the highs when you can go in the change room. There's a real feeling around the place. Everyone's happy. We've got the win, and it feels earned in the right way. And I think they're the big special moments.
Yeah, definitely. I think certainly in the last season or so, those special moments have been far more frequent, and it's been lovely to see the sort of journey that Colchester United have been on. But Yilmaz, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us and share your experiences from your time at Colchester United and beyond. And once again, congratulations on the role at the Football Association. And I'm sure you fans will be slightly gutted that we've lost out on yourself, but equally pleased for you and the opportunity
No,
that you've
listen,
been given.
and I can't thank you guys enough for the time and the effort. But yeah, like I've always said, even when I was leaving to BBC Essex, I'm actually I'm going to be there on Saturday next week in the South Stand. Like I said to Si, I've always wanted to experience a game, and yeah, like I say, it's a football club that I'll always hold dearly to my heart, just because of the good people that are not only at the club, but the good people that support it. And I think it's a unique club in the way that, which, like I said at the start, it's a community. Everyone buys into it, and I've definitely bought into it, because every Saturday at 3 o'clock, yesterday I'm checking when I see Aurora scores in the 85th minute. I'm going, come on, boys, hold in and hang in there. Not sure how the game's going, but the fact you're 1-0 up and you've only got 10 minutes to go, and I'm always checking the results to know that they're doing well and continuing to keep growing in that way. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you, mate. Really appreciate it.